Good afternoon. That is nearly like teaching when students get quiet when you get in front of them. It rarely happens these days. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to our wonderful campus and this wonderful building and room here at the University of Birmingham. My name is Edgar Meyer. I am the Dean of Birmingham Business School. I have been given a strict 2-minute limit, which I'm about to break, but I'm just going to say a few words of introduction. As a globally top-ranked, fully comprehensive university, for us this is really exciting because we cover a range of subjects from within the arts and humanities, business, computer science, medicine, engineering, and actually coming together and bringing here the deepening of the conversations around the role that technology is going to play in sort of driving the growth in our region is a real privilege. So thank you to techUK for actually bringing us together here. For me, as a Dean of a business school with many disciplines in itself, it's that collaborations between all these different partners, between startups, the multinationals, and everything that is in between of those dichotomies that will be vital for us in ensuring our ability to lead the way on embracing the digital skills and technology that will allow us to thrive as a region. And we know we have some challenges. It's worth noting that Birmingham is, of course, and many of you will know that better than I do, being relatively new to the area, is already a very major hub for tech, and particular fintech, with over 7,500 tech firms, over 30,000 students and research students that focus on these subjects. It's actually the highest number outside of London. At the university itself, we host the UK Centre for Blockchain Technology, which is a network of leading academics in the field to really drive this national agenda and advance the ideas of blockchain adoption in business, in government, and of course in society more broadly. Within the business school, we're really proud to focus on responsible business as the main area of our core. And within that work, we are looking at sustainability, trustworthy ESG metrics, but all of that again from collaborative approach and interdisciplinarity as core. And a big part of that is our UK Fin Plus network, which is a collaboration between Imperial College London and the universities of Cardiff and Edinburgh and us here. It would be, of course, remiss of me as someone who's opening to mention all of the many sponsors, and I will forget many of them, so forgive me now, but to mention just for us some of the partners that really are helping us to take some of these journeys towards better understanding of technology and better adoption of digital technologies. So first and foremost, of course, techUK, thank you. It's Tech Skills, who work with us on our MSc in FinTech. It's Tech West Midlands, Super Tech West Midlands, Super Tech, no. The Chamber of Commerce, City Ready, the Centre for the New Midlands, and of course also the Birmingham Digital Future Partnership. Sorry if I've forgotten any of our sponsors that are named over there. One further mention, and I'll take that privilege because I think it was an important announcement, and I do that without any bias in terms of the conversations we're about to hear, is of course the announcement of Future Fest for the region is excellent news. And it's excellent news because it will bring together conversations and innovations ranging from very technology-focused AI and robotics conversations and innovations to areas within music and gaming, so the full broad range. So I very much, myself now, look forward to hearing from each of the candidates that are here about their views on the tech sector here in the West Midlands. So with that, I think I've been just about within 2 minutes. I'm German, so they put me first to make sure that we're not run too late. So it is now my pleasure, therefore, to hand over to Marcus Harrison from ITS Technology. Thank you, and have a good afternoon all.
Thank you, Edgar. Good evening, everybody. My name is Marcus Harrison, and I'm the Faster Britain Ambassador for ITS Technology Group. We're a company that builds ultra-fast fibre networks across the UK, covering 72 networks across the country, up to 10 gig ready from get-go, and we've got a huge network in Birmingham and the Black Country area, covering over 40,000 business premises. The reason that we were really passionate about getting involved with techUK, and thank you to techUK for inviting us and to Birmingham for hosting us today, was because we really believe in the difference that the infrastructure can make to the local economic performances in the areas where we build these networks. Part of my role, I get involved with local stakeholders, and we talk about inward investment and how can we don't just talk about the air, road and rail connections, but also data connections that will attract those big businesses coming in for inward investment. On the flip side of that is their digital skills requirements. I'm part of a couple of advocacy groups, like UK TIN, for example, where there's 200,000 shortage of telecoms engineers across the UK. There are about 225,000 shortage of data scientists. And I was having a conversation with East Midlands Rail the other night where they were saying they've got a very similar problem in the rail engineering industry. So these high-end STEM jobs are out there. How do we involve our kids, get them excited about these future jobs that are available for them? On the flip side of that, we also had a conversation with housing associations recently, and they've been talking about the digital poverty divide getting even bigger. A lot of services now going online, so the everyday things that we might take for granted are now getting further and further away from these people. So how can we lend our voice as a tech industry to advocate for these people, make things easy for these people, increase their base level digital skills and improve social mobility. So those are some of the reasons why we were really keen and passionate to be involved in tonight. I think the tech sector as a whole has got a real role to play in the future growth of all our regional economies. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what the candidates have to say, particularly with the devolved power now. The power and the budgets lie within their hands, and we can really see a local difference being made across our regions where there's been devolution. So without further ado, I will pass over to Chris Weston from Jumar, who will follow on from me. Thanks ever so much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for techUK for inviting us to sponsor this event, which we're very pleased to do. From Jumar, we're a tech company based in the Midlands. We've been here for 20 years, proudly representing the Midlands tech scene, both in the UK and worldwide. It's a really important thing for us to be able to sponsor this event because, for us, this position, the combined authority, how we invest in our tech ecosystem in the Midlands is so important to us as a business. We've got a great diverse workforce to choose from. It's really important that they all get the opportunity to understand that there's a tech career out there for them. You know, for example, I was at a school only a few weeks ago talking to kids about tech careers, and a lot of them would say, well, that's just not for me, I don't really understand it. Most of those kids actually could have a tech career if they only understood the depth, the broadness of tech as a career. So for me and for Jumar, it's really important that we come here, sponsor an event like this, give these candidates the chance to understand what we need in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the skills, in terms of giving those people every chance to understand the opportunities that are out there for them, and for them to tell us what they're going to do, how they're going to achieve it, how they're going to spend our money in future. Really important for us that local democracy is served that way. So without any more further nonsense from me, I'm going to hand you over to Tracy, who's going to moderate the rest of the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Tracy Pound. I'm the MD of Maximity and the Digital Transformation Lead at the Centre for New Midlands and also the Chair of the Board of Directors at CompTIA. I'm delighted to welcome you this evening to the Mayoral Hustings. My thanks to Jumar and Faster Britain, who've made tonight possible, and our partners at the University of Birmingham, techUK, and of course the Centre for New Midlands for their support in organising this evening. Our debate will be focused on the tech sector and the digital economy here in the West Midlands. This is a fast and growing sector supporting thousands of businesses and jobs across Birmingham, Wolverhampton, Coventry, Solihull, Walsall, Sandwell and Dudley. And the reach of our sector in the West Midlands doesn't just stretch to the UK, but across the globe. Working with the tech sector and growing the digital economy is absolutely vital work for the Mayor. And tonight provides a unique opportunity for the tech sector to hear from candidates about their vision, plans and opinions on a number of issues. We're keen to ensure that we cover as much ground as possible, so may I ask that you respect the candidates whilst they're speaking. If you'd like to tweet or post about tonight, please could you do so using the hashtag #TechHustings. We'll be hearing from 3 of the candidates or party representatives hoping to be elected Mayor of the West Midlands on the 2nd of May. They are Andy Street of the Conservative Party, Siobhan Harper-Nunes from the Green Party, Lee Darg, the Liberal Democrat spokesperson, Richard Parker from the Labour Party, Paul Hopkins, the spokesperson for the Reform Party, and Ahmed Yaqub, the Independent. And tonight we are joined by Andy, Lee and Paul. We didn't quite draw lots for who's going to go first to give that opening remarks. We went on alphabetic order. So we're going to hear next from their opening statements, where they're going to tell us a little bit more about themselves, their plans for the West Midlands, and why the tech sector matters to them. So if we could start with Andy. Or you can sit down, whichever.
I think we're all mic'd up, so we don't need to wander over there. Lovely. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Lovely to be here, and thank you for putting on this hosting event, and thank you to my 2 colleagues who've stood in for their parties, and a shame others can't be here. But anyway, I was determined to be here because this is such an important section of my responsibilities. And I guess the pitch for the sitting mayor must be, why should you continue? What have you actually done in the past to give you confidence that we will continue to do what we say? 7 years ago, we started on this journey. No one knew what the combined authority was going to do, but I remember the very first hustings we talked about digital, as we said then, being the golden thread connecting all of our economy together. 7 years on, I hope people would agree that the combined authority has become a force for good, has become a significant player, and of course, we know our tech and digital sector has grown phenomenally. And as you said, now £15 billion and the fastest growing tech sector anywhere in the country. So let's look at what that has enabled us to do. It's enabled, of course, our investment in transport 10 times what it was back in 2017, and things like the fare capping that's coming out now, that's all resting on technology. If you think about our housing performance, there we are the only region in the country achieving our housing targets, and of course the way tech is being used in smart metering and all of that playing a huge influence there. And if you look at our skills and training programs, 135,000 people trained in the last 2 years, best qualified workforce ever, and we know that digital training, which I know we're going to be quizzed on later on, I'm sure, is a critical part of that. So wherever we look, we see the influence of tech. And perhaps the most important fact of all, over the last 2 years, 100,000 new jobs in this region, many of them in the burgeoning tech sector. So the simple pitch right at the beginning is look at what I've done, look at the financial management of the region that's lain behind it, not a penny on council tax, fine, sound management every year must give you confidence in what we're doing going forward. Looking at going forward, commitments around social housing, around our transport plan, but critically around economy. We've talked about 425,000 new jobs and training opportunities in the next 4 years, and the heart of them all is turbocharging every element driven by the tech sector. In particular, we've talked about, for example, bringing the world to Birmingham and the West Midlands, building on the success of Birmingham Tech Week in what we now call Future Fest to match the success that Austin, Texas have had of being a global focal point for the tech sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, said what I was going to do 7 years ago, we've done it. You can have confidence that I will do what I say I'm going to do this time round. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Lee?
Good evening. Yes, thank you for inviting the Liberal Democrats, and thank you for inviting me to stand in for Sonny, who unfortunately couldn't make it this evening due to previous job commitments. But I'd like to consider that tech is one of the very, very few things that permeates pretty much every single policy that a government, that a local authority, that a mayor's office has to face. From how food is made and produced and sold, how education can be improved with things like AI that we're often frightened about. We need controls and we need proper legislation, but there's so many opportunities for us. Transport, indeed, all of the opportunities that tech brings in universities like this with great research as well. And particular call out to UOB for hosting this. You're very good at doing these sorts of events in and around elections, so thank you. And a particular shout out to Red Brick, who I'm very pleased to see is currently thriving. With tech in particular, whilst this subject is going to be about technology, and we're going to talk about many things like education, I hope, which is a large part of the Mayor's budget, it all comes back to people. What can we use tech for? What are we already using tech for? There's a lot of fear out there. A lot of people think the robots are coming and the AI is coming to get us. Well, we know they're already here and they're already helping us from medicine and education and all of these other fields that we need to see proper investment in. Small and medium enterprises need a big boost, which is one of the key things that the Mayor can do, to make sure that there's investment in those businesses, to make sure that they can grow and develop and offer services and other products to other businesses, to the education sector, to the transport sector. So we've got to make sure that they grow too. I'm going to talk this evening a lot about education, but I'll save that for some of the questions we have and hopefully that you bring in. It's a huge budget, and I think it needs to be used a lot more. There's a lot more we want to do with how people reskill and upskill, because one thing we definitely know with the innovations in tech is that we don't have jobs for life. We have jobs that change whether you stay in them or you move to other jobs as well. And we need to make sure that people's opportunities and their education and their skills actually keep up with the opportunities that the tech gives us. So again, really pleased to be here tonight. Looking forward to your questions. Make sure you grill us. And whoever wins the mayoral, please make sure you keep on at us, because we hear about the digital divide. And my word, I tell you, even as a politician, the amount of times I spend screaming at the television with my OK tech knowledge when I'm hearing ministers talk about IT in ways that they simply would struggle to turn on a computer. It makes me, feel pain. So please make sure you're coming back to politicians of all stripes at all levels and making sure that we're investing in the things that you need to see as well.
Thank you very much. And Paul.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paul Hopkins, and I'm here representing Elaine Williams. She's the mayoral candidate for Reform UK. It's a great honour to be asked to speak at the Tech Hustings, so thank you for the invite. Elaine is unable to attend in person, so I hope I'm a suitable substitute. We're now in an age of technology that we should all have access to the internet in our homes as well as our phones. This means educating people to not be afraid. I understand people's fears only too well. While studying for my IT degree many years ago, I remember that my parents wouldn't even allow me to have a computer in the home, so it's completely new. But unfortunately, this is the same in many homes today, and I think Elaine Williams, as I believe, vows to change this if she is elected mayor in the Birmingham and the West Midlands. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the first question that we have for everybody today is about digital infrastructure and communication. So being digitally connected is so important these days. It infiltrates everything we do in our life. So whether that's fibre, whether it's 4G or whether it's 5G, helps us to work from home, it helps us to access services, it connects us with family, it connects us around the world. If you were elected mayor on the 2nd of May, how would you help drive this agenda forward? And if I could start with yourself, Andy.
Yes, with pleasure. So it gives me an opportunity also to thank techUK for pulling us together, because I'm going to call out techUK in answering this question, because they produce every year a ranking of regions by their technical prowess. I've been along to host actually a couple of their events in the past. And the good news is the West Midlands has risen over the last few years and is now ranked 4th. London is top in every category because it works on about, I think there's about 10 categories, and you rank on all of them, then you get a composite. London's always top, South East 2nd, the East 3rd, we are now 4th. But the reason I call that out is for connectivity, we are actually 2nd. And so something I am very proud of in my time as mayor is we've actually seized this and done, obviously, a pretty decent job. And the most important, the breakthrough for us was in the first year that I was mayor when we won the competition to be the national 5G testbed. And that has actually propelled us to have the best 5G connectivity of any area in the country. London is just, apart from London, they're just a little bit ahead of us. So there is clear evidence that we have prioritised this and done a good job. So that means that businesses that want that reliability of service, they are getting it here more than anywhere else. There are still some areas that are poorly served, and where we have examples of that, I use the mayoral office literally to get onto the providers to say, businesses in this tiny part of the West Midlands say to me it's not good enough, and we actually do something about that. So simply put, it is more of what we have been doing, looking to challenge where we're not doing well enough, but overall, we're actually in an extremely good position on this aspect of the connectivity, which is, of course, this particular question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Paul?
Okay, thanks. Okay. Right. Obviously, I'm here on behalf of the mayoral candidate. Before being able to provide commitments to driving the agenda forward, the very first step is to find out what exactly is required. We already have the technology in place, but we just need to see what is working and what is not before we can make any decisions going forwards. Sorry to not be able to expand on that. We need to ascertain the true extent of the picture, which will show the root causes, and then we can find solutions used to address these issues. Once we have the answers to these questions, we can move forward. To provide any categorical commitment without addressing this is folly and a waste of people's money. Elaine Williams is committed to acting in the interest of the people of the West Midlands, so whatever technology is used is a must. It must work. Currently, there are too many outages, too much downtime in industry caused by inefficient software and equipment. Getting every home connected to the internet is not just a priority, it's an essential form of communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee, would you like to?
I'm going to stay sitting,
Yes.
maybe feel less like an X Factor audition. I think I'm quite taken aback by some of the points in the manifesto ideas that you put forward. Thanks to techUK for sending that. So a chief digital officer to me sounds like a very good idea. As I mentioned in the opening, we have to recognise that tech isn't this thing that we do as a bolt-on. It's not something that we do when we get time or we find a bit of funding. It permeates every single thing that we're doing. And the manifesto goes on forward looking at dashboards and so on, which will be able to show us how we're performing in different areas. So I think a chief digital officer at the mayoral level would be a good start. And making sure that they're involved in all of the aspects. So sometimes people wouldn't, perhaps understand how much tech is coming into healthcare, for example. I know you in here do, but it's perhaps the biggest area of healthcare at the minute that is growing. We don't currently have health powers, maybe in Devo 2, 3 or 4, but we certainly have an impact on well-being strategies and different health boards around the region. We need to consider things like we can't always deliver fibre, so ideally up to the premises, but we can't always do that in some of the high-rise flats in city centres and town areas where the infrastructure is either too difficult to rip up and redo. So we need to look more at the growing 5G coverage and so on. We, in the last mayoral election, and again in this one, have even proposed a very successful bike scheme. I'll give credit where it's due, the Motability bikes and so on, and the electric scooters. Why not consider that in the tech world? Why not think students in universities are at home that need kit to connect properly? Why can they not perhaps rent things like 5G routers to help them with their studies and connectivity? Didn't we learn that doing things from home is more possible now, thanks to the pandemic? So we need to make sure that people have access to kit, whether it's at home. I'd like to say libraries. We're seeing, especially in Birmingham, unfortunately, slashing of library services, which themselves are often a hub for people to use for connectivity. So along with that, education, I did say at the start, I'm going to go on about that a lot. We need to make sure that as well as the tech that's available and the kit that's available to people, some of which they already own. How many people have, I do, my dad's in his 70s, and he can use his phone, he thinks, but he's often trying to text me or call me with the wrong camera asking how to do something. So some people have kit already that they need help with and they need training on. So it's not just about giving someone a modem and letting them get on with it. It's about making sure that the skills training that goes along with it as well. And I'll finish as well in the workplace. We often expect people to come in the workplace with all of the digital skills they need. Now, I do see 2-year-olds playing games on iPads on the train and get astounded by it. But we have to accept that there are a lot of people who don't have such opportunities through their schooling. So they are presenting at college a great opportunity to allow further education to develop, really the lost sector of education. But also when they're coming into the workplace, we can't assume that they have all the skills they need in the area of tech. So we need to see it as important as adult literacy, adult numeracy. Well, let's have adult digital awareness as well. It should be part of the same package.
Okay, thank you very much for those responses. I'm going to leave all the questions to the end of the session. So our next question for the panellists is around skills and creating opportunities. So as Mayor, how would you support digital skills, training and retraining for those seeking to work in the tech sector? And how can this help tackle digital exclusion? And Paul, would you like to kick off with that one, please?
Should we stand up or say?
Whichever you're comfortable with. If you
Do we all agree we all sit down? Said we'd have a nice discussion.
Dave's on the knees.
I've been trained you must always stand up to be respectful, but we'll all agree we will.
Okay. The Reform UK Mayor, Elaine, would support adult skills by working with educational establishments and local businesses to provide the right courses and training, hopefully developing AI learning to help people, to help guide people through the development at their own pace. Digital exclusion is a huge issue, with around 1.7 million households in the UK having neither mobile or Wi-Fi connectivity in their homes, and as more than 1 million people have had to cut back over the last few couple of years, their internet connection has been lost, and this is causing through the cost of living crisis. And something needs to be done to change this and help those people. It is estimated that 2.5 million people, in fact, are unable to complete the simplest of tasks when in front of a computer. That's just astonishing. And more than 5 million adults can't perform basic digital tasks, even by sending an email or using Microsoft Word. I think libraries are a hub of learning, and as the Reform UK Mayor would aim to build upon and develop these vital spaces of learning. Unfortunately, I know in Birmingham there are problems with that. They are potentially being closed, but that's a shame if it happens. I think we should work closely with local businesses, turning, like I say, the post offices, turning the libraries into areas, communal areas, and expand on the IT side, working hopefully closely with local colleges and even the Department of Work and Pensions that can help support this. Going back to basics, in school, to open more access to computer training with much more emphasis on digital learning as they progress to apprenticeships and other adult learning courses when they get to college. We must put more pressure on internet service providers to develop a range of social tariffs to get people online. I know they're available, but nobody seems to know about them, and that is such a shame. Plus, getting more businesses to donate their old computers and laptops to those in need, find more ways to incentivise the business and support charities that can rebuild and repurpose computers for the technophobes out there, the people who fear the internet or do not have the educational ability, or more importantly, their confidence to ask, are those that we need to target.
Thank you very much. Lee?
Yeah, so I touched on reskilling or upskilling in my opening. Lib Dems have a national policy. The name is a bit Marmite, but it's called a skills wallet, and the idea of it is that it's this pot of money that follows you around once you've come out of full-time education. And it allows you to look at your career path and decide, okay, I need to take this next level, but maybe the particular business I'm in isn't in that industry, or maybe they're not willing to invest in me yet. So I can draw down some of this money to actually help find a course of my own that actually suits what I'm after. It also enables people to maybe change career completely. We know these days that's something that a lot of people can do. But it's about giving people access to funding to allow them to be able to say, right, I'm in this job at the minute, I'm in this industry. However, I want to be over here doing this thing. And we talk in the tech world often about, my day job involves working with a lot of very, very clever, largely young people around coding. And we often think around things like that. But look, green jobs, green investment, that has to include digital. One of the things we should prioritise as well, you know, trying to have influence on government, which I know Andy does talk about, and we should continue that, are things like making sure that the industrial strategy a government puts forward doesn't see digital as something it has as an appendix. Digital has to be thread right throughout the industrial strategy. At a national level, we should also be trying to push to join the tech and trade relationship that the EU currently enjoys with the UK. You'll be unsurprised to hear Lib Dem complaining about something we've lost of coming out of the EU, but that's something we should seek to try and join if we can as well. Not something that the Mayor can do alone, but we can put pressure on national government to do. And indeed, looking at the different things that people have in their homes. So we talk about mobiles and we talk about tablets and computers, and quite rightly, but the Internet of Things is showing us that we have screens on, you know, fridges, and we have screens on digital readers of our electricity, and we have, different opportunities to learn how different items interact and how we can lower our energy bills by having an app that is connected to our smart home to allow us to, reduce lighting or temperature when we're not there, etc. So those sorts of things are tech, and they help reduce people's bills as well. But I think we often focus on what is on a screen. But even then, what is on a screen? Well, we have televisions now with internet browsers, and we have televisions with different apps and so on that you can install. So I think that the education sector is a bit behind in how they consider how much tech has pervaded, and I don't use that term in a negative way, our everyday life. And we need to be making sure that people of all generations understand where the tech is, but most importantly, how to use it as well. So it says here, retraining and training, really important, but it should be down to the Mayor to provide support that's such as through a skills wallet, as well as helping to promote business incentives as well.
Thank you very much. And Andy?
Yes, with pleasure. So first question about infrastructure. Given our answers. Second question about skills, quite right, because that's sort of the logic of it. And so we've obviously already done some of the things that are in the techUK manifesto for these mayoral elections across the country. Obviously, we're appointing a tech commissioner in the form of Martin Ward. Might not be a chief digital officer, as you use the language, but it's somebody who is there as our expert to lead this. We've also got a digital advisory board, and we've also got, of course, as we now call it, techWM as an organisation growing out of Birmingham Tech, and I should give credit to Yanis in the room as well, who's grown that. Now, the reason I go through that is that what everybody there says in that structure, and the businesses that are being set up here, and there was just a piece of news last week about a 22% increase year on year on the rate of tech business formation across the West Midlands. Everyone says skills is the critical thing. It determines the growth of the businesses. So lots are set up, but whether they really fly is about the quality of the people they can recruit. So this is absolutely mission critical. So again, I'd ask people to examine what we have done. So we have chosen to pivot our adult education budget and other training funds that we have towards this. We started off quite small in what we call digital boot camps. The phrase was coined here by a small company who provided the first one in Digbeth about 6 years ago. It is now a national industry, as the Prime Minister said, pioneered in Birmingham, now taken around the country. And we are literally putting thousands of people through that every year, and we are getting about a 75% employment rate on the back of it. And crucially, anyone who could go through those does not have to pay for the training, up to an earning level of £30,000. That is unique in the West Midlands. Everywhere else in the country, you pay for a contribution towards those training pieces, but this was the decision that we took given the critical importance of it. We're also now moving from the generic digital skills, which is so important, to some really technical areas where we can see a real need. So what we're doing is we're listening to the employers saying what is actually needed. So we've now got particular programs, for example, around cyber, particularly driven by the new National Telecoms Lab that we managed to attract into Solihull, and a new, very exciting area, immersive technologies around AV and VR and all of that stuff. So we're putting our money on the table for specialist provision, and that too seems to be really helping the growth rate of companies in those areas. But what's perhaps also relevant to say here, and Lee actually said it very well, just as I used to do, this isn't about tech on its own. This is about how tech drives every sector of our economy. So whether it be fintech, law tech, prop tech, so we're also funding the programs of training for those specialities, and they might not look like a digital program, but they are actually rooted in digital. So lots happening there. Then digital exclusion. Now this is tough. This is the hardest part of our 5-part digital strategy, because actually it requires funding and it's difficult. We've stepped into it. We've managed to get about 20,000 people devices, us paying for them from funding that we have put together, and we use the local authorities to distribute them, for example, through community centres, Next thing is not enough, but at least we're stepping forward there. And then the last thing I will just call out is what we've also just initiated, and I think it's a really kernel of a very good idea that I want to take forward in the next term. We're using the institutions of local community centres where we see many digitally excluded people going in some of the poorer parts of the conurbation to actually fund them as business hubs for them to do then the training in their place. The first one we've chosen is the INA Hub in Karma in Walsall. It predominantly is about women from South Asia, and it's proving a brilliant way of getting straight to those who are most excluded.
Thank you very much. And our final question is about artificial intelligence. So as Mayor, what do you see as the opportunities and risks of AI for the West Midlands businesses, services and citizens? And Lee, if you could kick that off.
Yeah, so the opportunities are already playing out. I think that transport is a really good area to consider. So what are the complaints about transport? There's not enough seats, there's not enough carriages, there's not enough services. Well, AI is already playing a huge part in designing a brand new transport system. We have obviously HS2 coming into Curzon Street in Birmingham. For shame, the government cancelled the rest of it. We hope that will be reversed at some point in the future. But look at the technology. This HS2 doesn't use any signals because it doesn't need them. Yeah? All the trains know where each other are through sensors and radio frequencies and so on. So that drives up safety. It drives up drives down times, it increases the number of trains you can run on the same line because they can go closer together. So all of these things rely on technological solutions, but they're already out there. So we need to be promoting them and developing. It's not something we have to wait for them to arrive. AI has, it does have a bad press. People think of robots from the future with Austrian accents. That's not, the fascinating world as though that sort of thing is. We're talking about things often behind the scenes that we don't know already improve our lives. Education, again, we have education skills in the Mayor's budget. That's an area, even the way that people teach. One of the things, I'm a qualified teacher, I'm not currently teaching. My word, are there lots of things that we should seek to automate to save time and to save stress and to improve the quality of teaching that teachers can give to people in and out of the classroom. So there's opportunities in pretty much every sector. So it's about making sure that we allow, you, the experts, we can talk about it, but it's about making sure that we allow you to have access to resources, whether that's simple things as networking through events that mayors can pull together, trying to get, councils to work better together more. Councils are looking to find more and more ways to reduce the amount of money they're spending. In Birmingham, unfortunately, we are bankrupt, as the name goes. So what a great opportunity, though, to bring local authorities together and see ways that they can share services, perhaps, that they use, that they don't just rely on themselves, but they can support each other. And again, that needs connectivity. It needs ways of communicating. It needs people to be trained up how to use the system. So AI is already there. It's already been there for quite some time. How many years we've been clicking on spot the cat in this picture, and we've been training AI systems all along. So it's about making sure that we give SMEs in particular the opportunity to really thrive and grow by giving services, giving training. And again, the further education sector, I'll keep banging the drum, such an opportunity. It's not just colleges and sixth forms, but as important as they are as well, making sure that they get the support they need, because I think we've all mentioned about businesses getting the right people through, but we've got to make sure that they're supported in education. If they don't get that, they need the support once they're in a job.
Thank you. Andy.
So you might be surprised by what I'm going to say, kick off this. The honest answer is I don't know. but it's okay not to know. What I do know is this is absolutely mission critical to the future of this region. And so one of the things you learn as mayor is you have to put people who do know in place to advise you and the region. So what we've already done is set up, again through techUK, this sort of AI, you might call it task force, experts who have probably got a lot more chance than elected politicians to know about it. And this is a tactic I've used in a number of areas where things are moving fast, to get the experts to advise. So we're doing that. I would say 3 things, though, which I definitely know. The first is this is going to change public services hugely. I'll give you the best example of what I've already seen, and it's an incredibly optimistic example. The region's setting up a lot, and they're government funded actually, of these community diagnostic centres. What is going to do the diagnostics in Washington Heath, in Harborne, in Coventry, all these places that are building these centres at the moment, they're going to be AI. So you'll have your scan, and it won't be observed, the image, by human, it'll be observed by a machine. And that actually is proven, work at UHB, to be more accurate than the human examination. So that is really exciting, because obviously what it does is it frees the human resource to do more different advanced things. And actually, Lee was right. If I was running a local authority, I am running a transport authority, we need to use that ability to actually remove lots of the routine tasks so that our people can be doing more advanced tasks. The second thing I would say about it is more threatening. And we need to think about this as a region. If you are, our biggest employer in this region is professional services. A lot of the people in professional services are doing tasks that will probably be done by AI in a few years' time. So it links back to the skills piece. We've got to help people move up the skills level to more value-added jobs, because just like technology changed manufacturing engineering, it will change the professional services as well. So we're absolutely on that with another of our arm's length bodies that we call Super Tech, to think about how that's changing. And the third thing I would say for definite is, given this is so important, I'm really quite pleased with 1 or 2 other steps that we're taking. Already, the stats say more West Midlands businesses, or a higher proportion of West Midlands businesses than anywhere in the country apart from London, have an AI expert within them. So that's really good for the future, because you've got to be the most innovative region. And something I'm very pleased with, we've just launched our first WMCA-funded AI training programs. And the lovely thing was, when I met the trainees a few weeks ago, and I said to them, well, what are you going to be doing in the future? They basically said the same as me, I don't know, but I know it's going to be very important. So it was great that we're in there at the start, thinking about training people with the relevant skills.
Thank you. Paul has asked not to comment on this question. So you've heard a little bit about the ideas and plans for the future. I'm going to open the floor up for questions now. I've certainly got plenty if there aren't any coming from the audience. I've worked in the tech industry for almost 40 years, so I've seen a massive amount of change. I believe we have a lady, Alice Rennie, in the audience, who has a question. I think there's a roving mic coming for you.
I just wanted to know what measures are being taken to stop brain drain to London, and what steps are being taken to enable large corporations and businesses to set up in Birmingham.
Okay, Andy, you're probably the best place to start that.
Didn't quite hear that. The advice is probably not to do what I'm about to do, which is to disagree with the questioner. But I think it's important. There isn't a brain drain to London from Birmingham. Now, that doesn't mean some people aren't moving. But I was just, oddly enough, looking at these stats last week. There is a net migration of young Londoners to the West Midlands. Now, that has come about in recent years, and the number for the year 22 was 26,000 people coming from London to the West Midlands. The out number was a lot less than that. I think it was about half. So actually, conversely to what we've always been told over the years, there is now a net positive migration of young people. It's one of the reasons we've got pressure on housing and all those things. And we can all work out why. Cost of living in London compared to here, disposable income you're left with here, much, much greater. It's still right, and it's inevitable, and, I admire it. that some people aged 18 will choose to go and travel the world and make their name there. But they don't have to, that's the point. And the stats actually say that people are net moving to the West Midlands. And just again, to nail another lie, how do you think we compare with Greater Manchester? We're about 60% ahead again of young Londoners moving here as opposed to Greater Manchester. Now, I think this is incredibly exciting for our future because those people tend to be well qualified and will drive our innovation in the future. But your question about attracting business is still extremely pertinent because all this upside stuff about what we're doing, we need to attract those footloose businesses from around the world, and tech is a critical sector for them. So what we have done, and we will continue to do this if I am mayor, we were putting big money, much more than any other region, into the agency whose job it is, our growth company, to attract businesses from around the world. It's a call I've made to really get behind them, expand them, and as a consequence, the latest data says that there's been an increase in inward investment from around the world into the West Midlands of 46% in the last year. The national number was 4%. And we now have more inward investment than anywhere other than London, more than Scotland and Wales added together, and we've overtaken the Greater South East. So we will continue to do that, and so many of these companies are tech. And why do they come? This is where it all connects together. They come because of the quality of the people they can recruit.
Interesting. Lee, is that the same view from your point of view?
I think it's a really good question, Alice, because I think in your question it was the possibility of a brain drain to London, and I would agree with you there. I think it's a rare chance for us this evening to hear an elected Conservative talking about the positive benefits of migration. So thank you, thank you, Andy, for that.
I have no difficulty with that.
No. So I think one of the things we've spoken about previously is looking at incentives to try and get young people to stay, particularly when they come out of full-time education, maybe, if they either didn't come from, if they came from somewhere else and moved here for university or other education, or are in Birmingham but looking to go elsewhere. Of course, the first and absolute priority should be supporting the choice of the young person to do what they wish to do. But on the hope that we'd wish you to stay, we could consider trials from the Mayoral's office about maybe part funding your towards your final year of fees, or maybe we could look at what I think, to be honest, is more of a problem for young people and students, is your day-to-day living costs at university, which are much more of a problem than the fees themselves. So we could seek to having some incentives about paying towards that maybe, but that you would then commit to staying in the region for a certain time. Other opportunities, we could try and fund businesses to get more training. One of the proudest things we did in government through Vince Cable was around apprenticeships, a massive explosion of that, so that's more important as well. So it's about people finishing education at different times as well. It's not just people coming out of university. So we're quite keen on looking at ways that people could be incentivised, but not punished if they don't do it. And it's about making sure as well that the businesses, especially the SMEs, they're 90% of our economy, making sure that the small and medium sized businesses have the opportunities themselves to draw down on funding to help with training and education. So if you want to move into a job, but you don't quite have the skills that they're after, you might have such a good interview that they want to bring you in, and then they could draw down on some funding from the Mayor office to look at helping to improve skills that way as well. So we don't have any fixed answers right now because we'd like to run a few trials and work with businesses, young people and their families to find out what works for them, and then to hopefully scale that up and then maybe offer it to other regions as well.
Thank you. Paul, how would you respond?
I can't really say because I'm talking on behalf of the mayoral candidate, and this is an area I have no facts and figures on, so I'm not going to expand on it. But I've got to say I live just outside Birmingham in North Warwickshire, so to be honest, I don't know why anybody would want to move away from Birmingham because I'm on the edge of everything. I only travel just down the road by train or by car, and I'm straight in the centre of Birmingham, and everything's on hand. I know the universities here are absolutely great. I came from one 30-something years ago. But I don't believe the brain drain is as people would think. I think people are coming to the Midlands for all the right reasons. We are the centre of everything. So, thank you.
The centre of the world, as it should be. Alice, would you like to respond at all to that, or are you happy with the answers you've been given? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the audience? Yes, gentleman at the back.
Hiya, my name's Charles, and my question is, we have two elements really to technological advancement. One at the forefront and the cutting edge, but also then the diffusion element, which I know we've been really bad at since the financial crisis. And I just wondered, how would you go about improving the diffusion to businesses that may be in the middle tier of distribution?
It's a good question. So I think there's two things I would call out. And in a sense, we'll go right back to the first question, which was about the connectivity, the technical stuff. And we've actually done, as I said, a really good job on that. But where your question then goes to is how many businesses are actually applying that new tech. And there we are actually, as a region, I'll be honest with you, less good. We're not bad, but we're sort of middling, a bit below middle. And so what we've tried to do directly about that, and we will do more of this, is we've actually built this organisation that we call WM5G. It's an arm's length body of the Combined Authority, and its purpose is actually to encourage SMEs to apply the new technology. And the way we do that is it actually provides the program, the examples, whatever, to actually do that. And we're now at, I think it's about 400 businesses that we're actually taking that through. That needs to be scaled up because you're spot on as to where the challenge is. So we built an organisation that's responsibility for that. The other thing I'd just draw in though, because we haven't talked about this at all, and in a sense it's the missing part of the total picture, is a lot of these organisations can't do it because they don't have the cash and the funding to grow in this way. So we're actually brilliant at starting organisations who probably do want to apply technology, but we don't grow them fast enough, partly because so what we're also doing is we're looking at what direct funding we've got ourselves, so the co-investment fund that we set up, but probably far more importantly, what's coming, something called MindForge, which has been put together by our universities, this one, all credit to it, that will actually provide the seed funding to enable people to pay for the application of that technology as they grow. So it's a very real issue. I've given you a couple of pieces there that we've definitely stepped in to try to address.
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Lee?
Yeah, I touched a bit on sort of the trial idea about helping businesses with education skills as well as tech themselves and drawing down funds or loans from Mayoral. But also I think it's about, you're right to say we need to help them scale up because sometimes it's though, here's a new tech, off you go. In lots of industries and individual businesses. I still talk to teachers regularly who think their best tech achievement is being able to use a digital eraser on a board. So it's about ensuring that the industries or the businesses themselves not just have access to the tech and to the new innovations, but also their own staff themselves, even if they've used tech before, their own staff need development as well. So we talked a lot tonight, particularly about getting more education for people coming into the businesses. What about the people already in the businesses and frightened of this new thing that's come in and they're not sure what it is? So it is about scale, but it's about bringing people along at a pace sort of they're comfortable with, because one of the things that tech does is it pushes us, doesn't it? Innovation pushes us sometimes much further than we're comfortable with. So it's about bringing people along with this because they're going to have to use it, they're going to have to maintain it, they're going to have to reprogram it or whatever the tech is that we're talking about. So investing in the people that are going to be using it in the business itself, as well as new people coming in, is as important as getting access to new tech, to new innovations. And also networking, again, I think a number of us have said tonight, getting different businesses and industries to talk to each other about, what went well here and how can we learn from each other. So that's another important part, to share learning as well.
Okay, thank you. We have just scratched the surface of the digital conversation this evening, but we're coming up to the top of the hour, so we're going to have to bring this session to a close. So a final question for each of you.
Oh.
What's your most used or overused emoji?
I use lots in different groups of people I talk to, I could tell you the most used emoji for me in the world of politics is the rolling eyes emoji.
Fantastic. How about you, Paul?
With me, it's got to be the laughing, crying one.
Yes.
I read everything to do with politics, and I just can't believe any of it.
And how about you, Andy?
So I wish it was this, but it's not. I wish it was the bicep, but it definitely isn't. I fear, and this really sends me up, I'm sorry, I fear it's probably the hard hat. We use too many of those in our social media, so there we go.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you for that short insight.
Yeah.
And it's now time for the closing statements from the candidates. Paul, would you like to start that, please?
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the opportunity I've had here today, being dropped in to help. The Hustings by techUK, which is thank you very much for that. On behalf, and obviously I'm here on behalf of Elaine Williams of Reform UK, the mayoral candidate. Elaine believes in doing what is right for the people, and any solutions must improve their lives and be cost effective. She knows that the money the council spend is from your pockets, and she intends to use your money wisely. Believing in people first, Reform UK will scrap all net zero. I'm sure some people might be surprised about that one, but these, we believe, are destroying the economy, destroying our lives, and for little or no benefit to the planet. Then the huge savings can be, as far as we're concerned, can be redistributed back into the economy. You know, increasing the infrastructure, you know, helping keeping 36 Midlands libraries open, and indeed we should be developing into the libraries into local tech hubs. Elaine believes we should work closely with the Department of Work and Pensions and local colleges to get people working more within the IT and digital world, using and developing AI systems which can be, to get everyone connected digitally. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andy?
Yeah, great. So as you can probably tell from some of the answers, I've become a bit of an anorak on some of the subjects raised.
It's my world.
Yeah, exactly. And if you'd asked me 7 years ago, and people who know me well would say, he's not a digital anorak at all. But the underlying point is really very simple here. That if you do a leadership job like this, just like if you're CEO of a business, so when I was CEO of John Lewis, you have to think, how are we going to compete against everybody else long term? And you have to put your chips down on the big bets. Exactly the same in being the mayor of the West Midlands. You have to say, where are we going to compete in the future? What are we going to be brilliant at? Not against Manchester and Liverpool and Newcastle and Leeds and London, but actually against Boston and Barcelona and even Beijing. And the answer is that tech has to be a critical part of it. The regions of the world, which are the richest regions at any time in history, are the ones that embrace tech. Whether it was this country leading the first industrial revolution, frankly, whether it is now the Bostonians, the richest city in the Union, leading in some elements of tech, and just look at the rise of Austin as the heart of tech in Texas. So we've come a long way in 7 years, if you look at that techUK ranking, and I am determined, if re-elected mayor, that we will continue to put our chips down on this. That's why, whether it be connectivity, whether it be skills, whether it be application, we have absolutely got to do this. And it's why last week, when we were talking about our economic plans, we really focused on how this sector could grow to get our growth in total for the economy ahead of London. And we chose, obviously, the commitments around Future Fest as the sort of mind-expanding, imaginative piece, which said, yeah, the West Midlands can fill that gap in Europe to do what has been done in Austin. But I'm absolutely clear, mission critical this is, and if I'm very honest, that's why I'm disappointed that the Labour candidate is not here tonight, because this will determine the wealth of this region in 10 years' time.
Thank you. And Lee?
So firstly, thank you, Tracy. Well done for a well-chaired debate, and thank you to Andy and Paul. And Paul, your first Hustings, so well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Could you tell?
Thank you for a good-natured debate. And thank you on behalf of Sonny Verk as well, who is the actual candidate for the Lib Dems. And thank you to the back as well for allowing us to be heard. So I grew up with tech. My formative years were in the 90s. So I grew up with things, playing around with computers and getting interested in that sort of thing. Young people in particular these days don't have tech. They don't have phones. They don't have digital tools and toys. It's part of their actual lives. One of the most annoying things I hear is about when children go to school and we find ways to take their digital tools off them rather than finding ways in the classroom to actually help use them and grow and learn with them. It's because we're quite backwards in how we look at tech in a way, really. And indeed, lots of you in the audience who maybe have started businesses or in businesses or in education or other fields, tech is just part of what you do. It's not something that you sort of find out later on that you're interested in. It's part of who you are, and you want to see it grow and become successful. And that really is what the Mayor should be making help happen in the region. So, as I mentioned earlier, one thing, whatever happens after this, make sure you keep banging down on the door of the Mayor to be supporting you in what you're doing. I'm happy to stay at the end for a while, by the way, to hear, I'll be listening, you'll be telling me what needs to happen. And we need to make sure that we carry on supporting investment, but improving that. So we talked a bit about education. We talked about how it's improving in transport and other areas. We need to make sure that there is a Chief Digital Officer. You've mentioned somebody in tech, so we need to make sure that they have proper involvement in everything within the region. We need to make sure that also the Mayor is lobbying government as well to be doing much better. I cringe when I hear Home Office ministers asking for backdoor channels in encrypted messaging services and so on. So we need to be making sure that everybody is being educated, be it the politicians, be it the young people coming out of education, be it the people who are middle-aged and older who often get forgotten about, that they need support and they need guidance, they need access to the tech, they need training. And we've also talked about people in work already that still need training and reskilling and upskilling and giving them more opportunities. So it's really something we need to make sure is not seen as the future, it's already here. So thank you again for inviting, and look forward to hearing more from you after, hopefully.
Thank you.